Hey, welcome back to Rules of Engagement Community Critique. This is where you send your replays at home. You're playing, you play a game. You want to have a little more input on what went wrong or what you did great or how to help improve yourself or whatever reason. You just want to show it on air. Send it over, www.majorleaguegaming.com/replays. Send it to me every Thursday. We're going to do about 3 replays every Thursday. Go over them a little bit and see what we can learn. Of course, also at the end of this show, I will be answering questions that are tweeted to me at ISAX5 on Twitter, so tweet me any questions about the show, about Heart of the Swarm, about life in general, what's your favorite whiskey, etc. Send those all over. But let's get on to our next match for today. It's going to be a Terramir on Antigua Shipyard, and it's going to be focused on how to break and contain. So this was sent with basically someone saying, I don't know what to do. So ACRA Aaron S. I know my macro wasn't exactly great. However, this is one of those situations where in Antigua I was locked on a 3 bases. This can happen on maps other than Antigua as well, just so you guys know. Daybreak especially. I tried to use Marines to kill expensive units, but in the end I got drowned out. Advice on handling this would be awesome. So we're going to look at this kind of situation he's in on Antigua. Let's jump into the game. And one thing I want to point out. So we're going to look at this of how to break a contain. How to get unstuck, basically. But if you're interested in how to work a contain and when it's a good idea to do a contain, go check out Talking Tactics episode number 1. We aired on Monday. You can catch the VODs at mlg.tv, where we looked at a fantasy versus major game where fantasy shows perfectly how to execute a contain. Now that we're going to look at how to break a contain from ACR Aaron's perspective, excuse me. And this is the situation he's in, right? So we're looking, he's the blue player over here. And he's got, a bunch of siege tanks, a bunch of Marines, pretty standard Terran stuff. His opponent, we're actually is basically sieging him with tanks, right? He's got tanks and Vikings, and he's in this position where his base has been sieged. He's kind of stuck in here, and he's kind of panicking. He's in trouble. So whenever you're in a position like this, there's 3 things you want to do. First thing you want to do is you need to stabilize your position. So that's what he's attempting to do right now. He's got a siege tank here. He's got a couple siege tanks there. He's flying away his factory. So that's very important, right? The most important thing is not to panic, right? Don't just start sending units everywhere. Just kind of calm down, take a deep breath, continue Marine production, or SCV production. That's something he's already slipping up on. There's no SCVs in production right there. He does have, 59 SCVs versus his opponent's 50, so that's not too big a deal because he's still ahead. But you want to keep up that SCV production. Keep up all the unit production right now. He's got a couple of these barracks. They could be rallied backwards. They're not producing anything, so that's not so good either. He's got plenty of money. So that's the panic setting in right there. You're in a position. You're like, I don't know what to do. Excuse me. If you don't know what to do, keep macroing. If you do know what to do, keep macroing anyway, because you should always be macroing no matter what you're doing. So that's the first thing is don't panic. Next thing is fix all the rally points. So these rally points are going diagonally up here. That's a little bit tricky because the Marines will pop out here, and then they'll get blown up by those siege tanks that are up here. So you want to fix the rally points, put them all backwards. You can just let them pile up here, and then once there's a group, you can kind of send them out on the bottom of the ramp. So fix your rallies so you're not under fire as you're rallying. Maintain production. You got to keep that macro up. Next thing you do once you stabilize, you feel comfortable. Along with maintaining production on your buildings, you got to keep building more, right? Your factory just lifted off. Well, build a couple more barracks and factories here. You've got some extra space. You got another factory here. You can put another barracks there. So make sure you're maintaining that production. Next part is you have to scout your opponent's position. Right now, what does he know? He knows there's a bunch of Vikings in his base, and he knows there's some tanks down here. He doesn't really know how many. He might know from earlier. There's like 3 or 4 or something like that. And then he knows there's some missile turrets in the base right here. Right? That's all he knows. Right? What's over here? Don't know, right? Turns out there's actually nothing there. So that'd be really nice to know. You have to know your opponent's basically unit layout, right? Where do they have units? And there's a couple of different positions. Let's actually take a blow up of the map, and we can point out some of these things here. If I can find it anyway. There we go. Blow up of the map. Bring up our little worky thing over here. And so this is the map. Let's use red for our friendly ACR Aaron player. So he's got, a couple bases here. We're going to put B for base. And he's got another base over here. And then he's got, basically got a defensive line along here, right? He's got some tanks there, and then he's got a couple tanks there. And that's the defensive line he's holding, is over on that side of the map. And then let's take a look at his opponent. Let's switch over to a different color real quick. The capture his opponent. So his opponent's blue. His opponent's going to have a base up here. Base up here. Oops. I don't know what went wrong there. Base up here. Another base up here. I think we saw third base. I forget, but that's not even too important. And his opponent's got a bunch of guys here. And then he's got some turrets here. So this is pretty held up. But I mean, we know there's nothing here. This is the first thing is a scout to know what your opponent has. So you got to know that this is a position. And then you have to think, what are the potential ways I can break and contain, right? There's basically a couple options. One is to counterattack. Don't break and contain. Work around it, right? If he wants to counterattack, he's got a couple options of things he can do. Let's say purple for different options he has, right? He can launch dropships up here. Well, there's missile turrets. You have to have a secret missile for that to work. Not such a great idea. Another way, he could launch some dropships around here, kind of work around the side of the map, right? That's a longer walking distance. It's kind of risky. I mean, he could even actually go the very long way around if he wanted to be less risky. Those are both options. But the shorter way, the problem with that is if there's red units in the middle, of course, you're going to see it coming and deflect it. The longer way is the fact that you're going to be waiting for 3 minutes sitting on being contained, and then maybe they have another sensor tower they're building, or they'll have the rally will hold it. Who knows? It's a long distance to commit troops to be out of the picture for quite a while. So that options can work, sometimes can't. Another option, you can chip away at their containing force. If you have a superior Viking count, you can add in a Banshee to work at the contain, or you can slowly push tanks up. Unfortunately, his opponent, pure tank Banshee, not really going to work. So his last option is the Blitzkrieg Assault. This is a military tactic that actually involves a couple steps, but the main idea of the Blitzkrieg is, let's say his opponent let's say his opponent had a nice battle line that extended all the way here, right? He has got a bunch of red X's all the way over there, right? In this case, there's only one red X. So in this case, as soon as he scouted that, he could have just gone around the army and won the game. But let's assume his opponent had a stronger containment and covered all the angles. So his opponent has units over there. The Blitzkrieg Assault is you gather up all your units, and you pick one of these X's. One of these X's to focus your entire army on. So even though their siege tanks are not going to be super cost efficient, but let's say you're going to pick this top X, right? So you're going to send your giant army over here. You're going to knock out this X. That's step one. Okay? Step two is to come around behind their army. This is a tactic Germans used in World War II. They break one hole in the defensive line. Then they send the rest of their army over here. And now they've got their opponent surrounded. Right? Those units are cut off. They can't be reinforced. Eventually they will be destroyed without support. You can overwhelm them later on. Or, of course, you could actually just head up and do a counter. But they may or may not work, but focus all your attempts on one single hole. So let's jump back in the game and look at how he might have been able to achieve this. So back in here at StarCraft, it turns out, of course, like I mentioned, his opponent did not have a strong contain. So in this case, he could have just simply walked along this path, right? And he could have done... you could still consider a Blitzkrieg Assault. You just pick the weakest part of your opponent's line. You put all your forces there. Turns out in this game, the weakest part was actually... it had a total defensive 0. There's nothing there, so it's super weak. So we could easily walk around here and then come across and, of course, cut off these units, or even set up a counter-contain attack along this path. A lot of options here. But let's suppose there was little outlets of these around everywhere. This bottom spot is pretty easy to attack because he can get a really great angle. In fact, let's actually fast forward it for a few minutes. Just gonna skip some of this, a lot of units there weren't being rallied properly, so that was a little bit of a problem. And then now we're at a point where he's got a good number of tanks. Okay, he's established his own third. And I believe that was just a scan, right? Yeah, he just scanned his opponent. He sees what he has, right? There's a total of 5 Marines, 2 tanks, and this many Vikings. I think I missed some of the Vikings. Yeah, there's one more. And with this army here, look at this. We've got, what, 15 Marines and 5 siege tanks. He could easily just break this, right? And I'm assuming his opponent has units elsewhere because of that food difference. So it turns out his opponent has some Marines idling in the main. He's got a tank over there. He got some Vikings here. Another couple tanks lined up for defense. So assuming all those other tanks were like around here and he just had this whole thing defended, You can break this spot pretty easily with a good unit spread. But you've got to commit with your tanks as well, not just the Marines. And you just squash that army. And then, of course, once you squash it, you can come out this way. And then you can come out through the middle. And then you can come around back. Excuse me. Sorry. You come around through the middle. And then you come around on the back. And then you're basically behind your opponent. You're at a pretty good advantage positionally there. So that's kind of the idea behind breaking contains. You counterattack, you chip away, or use a Blitzkrieg to destroy it. But first, you've got to scout your opponent. So hopefully that's been a little bit informative on how to break and contain. Why don't we take a look at those 3 steps again just to rehash them. So number 1, your step is to stabilize your army and production. That's the one thing that ACR Aaron could have done slightly better on there. He lost a lot of units to poor rallies. And of course, he was floating a ton of money because he had to move his production buildings but didn't really replace them quite as fast as he could have. A lot of it has to do with panicking. When you're in a bad situation, always go back to your macro core first and foremost in your mind. That should always be prioritized. Second part, you got to scout your enemy troop positions. If he was playing, maybe send 1 Marine out in each direction. Throw out a scan. Fly a barracks forward. There's a lot of different options you have to scout. Scouting so he knows what's out in front of him. Even building a sensor tower, that can really show where the contained units are. If he did that a little bit better, he would have known that it wasn't actually a contain. It was just a small little squad sieging his base from one angle that he could have just walked around and cut off reinforcements to that spawn. So scouting enemy troop positions is very important. Last step, you have to destroy that contain. You can either do it by counterattacking to draw the units away. You can do it by chipping away slowly if you have good harassing units. Or, of course, the last option you have there is you can use the Blitzkrieg attack to focus on a small little group of their units, push through there, then use that spot as a way to get through the contain. So this has been, hopefully it's been helpful on how to break and contain. We're going to take a quick break, then we're going to be back with a Zerg game.